I'm happy to be here. How are you all feeling? Good, good, good. So do me a favor. Look at the person sitting to your right. Now look at the person sitting to your left. Why is that so funny? They look funny? Now look around you. Look around you. Imagine the person that you're sitting next to just last week was judged because of their gender, judged because of their sexual preference. Maybe, perhaps last week that person was marginalized or dismissed, talked down to, felt less than, felt inadequate, felt like they just couldn't measure up, felt like their self-confidence had dropped to the floor. Imagine going to work every day, being reminded that you're different, being reminded that you're just not good enough. Imagine the weight of what that feels like. Imagine having to check who you really are, your authentic self, having to check that at the door before you walk into your cube, before you walk into the office. And so when I say having to check it, meaning I gotta get myself buttoned up, I gotta fix my hair, I gotta make sure it looks the way others want me to look, I gotta make sure I walk like others want me to walk, talk like others want me to talk. I have to step into this zone so that others are comfortable around me before I get to be productive. I have to eliminate some of my essence, some of who I am, to make others feel comfortable around me. I'm not going to ask you to turn to your neighbor on the right or the left and look at them again. But I do want you to go with me on this journey of connecting to our hearts. Oftentimes we lead around our head, but we leave out our heart. And if for the next 15 minutes, if I can get us to do a spiritual transplant of the heart being transplanted into somebody else's heart, for you to get to see what it's like to be me, for you to get to feel what it's like to walk in my skin, for you to feel what it's like to be discounted or marginalized or reminded, it's okay. Oh, so sorry. So we'll do a spiritual transplant for the next 15 minutes. My premise to you is each and every one of us in this room has the capability, has the power and the influence to lead diversity and inclusion. Each one of us have that. It's not my job. It's not the head of diversity's job. It's all of our job. And I have 3 points to land that home for you. Who's going to ride with me? My sister over there, that was the first hand that went up. Thank you. Connecting to the head and heart to drive inclusion in the workplace. I was hired in 2006 by Noah Rubbermaid to lead their diversity and inclusion department. They had recently relocated from Freeport, Illinois, to stand up their company here in Atlanta. They've since relocated to New Jersey. When I was hired, that was in May of 2006, May 5th to be exact. 2 weeks later, I was invited by the CEO to attend the corporate board of directors meeting because Rainbow Push Coalition, Janice Mathis, who was a tremendous advocate back in that time, Rainbow Push is a shareholder, was a shareholder, perhaps they still are. How many of you know if you just have one share, you can go to the meeting, you can pitch a fit and do whatever you want? And so I was instructed to attend the meeting. Why? They just hired me on as head of diversity. Rainbow Push is knocking on the door saying, your leadership doesn't look inclusive, and we're gonna talk about that at the shareholders meeting. So 2 weeks on the job, guess who they call? Ghostbusters, no. They called Jackie and it's like, you have to show up. So I literally was there as a figurehead. I was asked to stand up when the question, and I guess to Janice's defense, she did give them heads up that, hey, I'm going to the shareholders meeting and I'm going to ask the question about diversity leadership. And so Mark Ketchum was the CEO at the time, and he said, glad you asked. We just hired Jackie Parker to lead diversity inclusion. Jackie, would you stand up? So 2 weeks into the job, I'm representing, and what I had come to learn after 6 years in that role, I carried the weight on my shoulder for the entire C-suite to be able to sit down and say, Jackie Parker has it. She's responsible for it. Not me. I hired her. Guess what she's responsible for? Making sure we have good succession planning, making sure that we have employee resource groups, making sure that we are equitable in our corporate benefits, that they are inclusive. She's responsible for our recruitment efforts and our retention efforts. Yes, she's responsible in the head. She's responsible for everything we see and do relative to diversity. In fact, she's responsible for representing who we are as an organization in the community. It's Jackie. So imagine my own insecurities of navigating this thing called diversity and my own shortcomings. I couldn't run that job or walk in that position and have low self-esteem, because guess what? I'm carrying all of that. Does anybody feel me, hear me? I mean, I had to walk like I knew what I was doing and talk like I knew what I was doing, and I never did that. Sorry, mic people, that sounds like an earthquake. But I did it because I had been marginalized all of my life. I've been reminded of what I'm not, what I can't be, all of my life. And in fact, before I took the job, this is really interesting, before I took the job, I wanted the job. I wanted to lead. I did. Growing up, it's like, diversity was like the hottest little job. You get in the community. I want to lead. I want to do that. People were coveting for that job. It's like, can I get on your calendar and learn what you do? Because, I really want to do diversity. Excuse me. That was a joke. I really want to do diversity, but I asked for what I didn't know. But I had heart and I had compassion, and I wanted my marginality, my difference to make a difference. I wanted my experience to not be somebody else's experience. I wanted you to come into the workplace and it would be a happy place. How naive. What I realized, though, sitting in the corner office without having a true fund, right, a true budget, it wasn't really funded like other training programs. Come on now, like SAP, right, like safety, right? Like some of these programs have tremendous amount of resources and staff. What I didn't realize is trying to get on Trevor's calendar was going to be a problem because I needed to sell this thing called diversity and inclusion to Trevor. I needed Trevor to want diversity and inclusion just as much as I wanted. So I had to make it relevant for Trevor to get on his calendar. I had to talk business strategy. I had to talk goals and objectives and how D&I could help Trevor accomplish his goals and objectives, for Trevor to open up the door and allow me to come in so that I can talk about this weight that I believe the leadership wanted. Like, I believe you hired me that you wanted this, but it was such a push to get Trevor to help me lead this. Because Trevor would say, no offense, that's your job. I don't really care about that anyway. Like, how does that impact me? How does that impact me? When you hear the diversity word, can't hide your name. Gabriel, when you hear the diversity word, Gabriel, that doesn't include me. That's that group. And I think as practitioners, we've left out the dominant group in the examination of this thing called inclusion. WTF? Like, how do I lead Gabriel and Trevor along this journey with me to build this house of inclusion if I don't engage them? And if I don't invite them to be a part of the solution, but I constantly remind you that you're not a part of the group. I constantly remind you that you're the problem. So sad. And so I think we get it twisted, right? I think our intentions were pure and good. It was great on that thin piece of paper. The concept was fabulous. But I missed the heart of the matter. I missed the heart about the program. It's not just one segment of the population. It's all of us. And if I have a strategy that is just one element of the business operation, how are we to get this a part of the ecosystem, the enterprise, if I keep it as a separate standalone department? How do I get you to embrace that this makes sense for the business if I keep it separate? Now here's the optics around it. Not only do I keep it separate, I don't fund it, I don't give staff to it, I don't give resources to it. On paper, we talk about how important it is, but it's not on the agenda at the leadership meeting. It's not talked about. It's not communicated in all hands communications. Oh, no, we don't want to talk about that. We have some other stuff to talk about. But it's important. And so we've left the heart out of how we manage inclusion. Because the head would say, that's logical. Yes, just hire somebody. We'll give you an admin, and I'll give you a coordinator. Go do that job. Go do that job. And then come talk to me once a quarter. In fact, I'm going to give you 15 minutes on the calendar at the board meeting. And you can tell the board, Jackie, how well you're doing. You can tell the board how well we are advancing our progress for inclusion. You. Oh, before you come in and tell the board, Jackie, come talk to me and let me see what you're going to say. So I can make sure it's okay. All the while, you're doing that job in your little corner, in your silo, by yourself, with your heart and your two people. Can I get an amen? Amen. So traditionally, I think we've just been doing it incorrectly. My premise is starting with the head and moving from the head into the gut, because a lot of what we do when we lead, it's from the gut. Like my gut reaction told me that we need to do this. We need to bring in 5 employee resource groups. We need to focus on supplier diversity. That's my gut. Not sure if it's aligned to anything. Not sure if after we've announced the launch of employee resource groups that we have budget to fund them so that they can actually implement their plan. But my gut says that's the right thing to do. I'm sure you all are familiar with the term called leaky gut. Leaky gut was when the bacteria leaks into the walls of the intestine and causes pain or problems or bloated. Let's just say just get bloated. Similarly, in corporate departments that's managing diversity, inclusion, the leaky gut are the people that say, I hate this. This is stupid. It doesn't include me. But those are the people who are in the C-suite. So they know the CEO has embraced it, but his direct report says, this is a waste of time. This is stupid. That's a leaky gut. Or I'll give you a story. My crow at Knoll, I would go in there often to give, updates. And there was this one particular meeting where I went in to give them an update. It may even been my performance, it was so long ago, but what I recall was so traumatic for me. Traumatic not at the highest level, but just traumatic where it put an impression upon me. When he said, Jackie, he said, so we're talking about Mark Ketchum's direct report, so we're talking about the leadership. And he said, Jackie, when I feel like this is my boss and I'm leading diversity, and he tells me, when I feel like I've made progress and I'm getting his peers on board in alignment with wanting diversity, there's another leader who has power and influence who kills it, who punch holes in it. And he was defeated. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, dude, silently, I ain't say that, but dude, if you are defeated, I'm drawing my strength from you. I'm drawing my victory from you. And it was one of those TMI moments, like he was really vulnerable and and really shared that he doesn't feel like it's going anywhere, because every time he gets rid of one person who wasn't on board, not kicking them out, but just bring them on, there's another person, and he just felt deflated. And I walked out of that meeting saying, oh my God. Oh my God. So I call it the leaky gut, because there's always one. And it's daunting. And you get like fatigue over it already. You're like, really? Are we still talking about this? How many years we've been talking about this? So I say, where's the heart? We're operating from the head and operating from the gut. Where's the heart of the matter? Because the heart of the matter is that I feel you. I see you. Your presence is here. Like, if I could feel what's inside of that humanity of the individual. The truth of the matter is, I invested in hiring you. I hired recruiters. I spent money to bring you in. I put all this money to bring you in. Once I bring you in, I throw you away, discard you. It's up to you to do your job. So think about the ROI that we invest in recruitment. And then once you get in, you got to figure it out yourself. But there was some head-heart connectivity when I met you. And I believed in your capability, and I brought you in. So it's my responsibility to make sure I pull all of that greatness out of you. It's my responsibility that I help you maximize what you've come to do. The first person in this room who don't want to be productive in their workplace, raise your hand. Like everybody, I mean, you want to give, you want to produce, you just want to do a great job. You don't want to deal with the other stuff. But somehow we get caught into the leaky gut syndrome, the leaky gut stuff. So, what's the solution? Trevor, what's the solution? Just kidding. Trevor looked at me like, does she really want me to answer that? The solution is stepping into your own power and your own influence and connecting to the humanity of the person sitting next to you. When I open up, I talk to you about looking to the left, looking to the right, and seeing the person sitting next to you. I am convinced, I am completely convinced that in business, for some reason, we leave our heart outside the door. I am convinced that relationship can trump logic all day long. It's like, I know Trevor, just give it to him, just do it. Because Trevor, not even thinking, is it logic? Does it make sense? How does it support the business? And we do things like that. But solution number one is to make sure we get the right people in the right seats. I believe we have to stop hiring the African American female and put in a corner office and give her one person, two persons, maybe three. Maybe in academia it's different, but in corporate America it's just really not funded. It may be different in your world. Number two, we need to lead D&I through the lens of inclusion. We develop D&I programs with D&I people, but not, you may get a cross-functional team, but you're not inviting the folks who need the preaching, you're not inviting them to develop this strategy. It's almost like we take the choir and the choir gets together and it's like it's the same, we're preaching to the choir, it's the same folks. So we're not allocating our resources correctly. Thirdly, we need to remove the D out of D&I, honestly. I don't even like to use the word diversity because of the connotation, because I feel like it sends people to a different stratosphere. I like the word inclusion or cultural transformation or getting to the heart of the matter. Let's just talk about the heart of the matter. You're talented. You have something we need. Regardless of your dimension of diversity, it is my job to pull that out. We know statistically that when you infuse diversity of thought, diversity of representation, different dimensions of diversity, when you infuse that into the organization is overall more effective, more productive. When you have a homogeneous society, you're thinking alike, talking alike, and there's no room for innovation and creativity. We already know that. You guys probably heard that a million times. But what's the difference between hearing that and actually doing it? Hearing it and actually doing it. Because we hear it, but it never has resonance here for us to then act upon it. We know what's right. We know the right thing to do. Sometimes we will just look the other way. But we know the right thing to do. So I think you just have to take the first step. Just step, do it. You'll find yourself doing what you thought was impossible. It then becomes possible. Once you find that you could do the possible, guess what you're doing then? You are being. You are being. I think we make this thing so complicated when it doesn't need to be. The heart of the matter is when you think about the central hollow organ, the role of that heart is to pump blood through the lungs. In fact, the bad blood comes up out through the lungs, and the good blood is circulated to the brain. But the heart is what keeps us going. And it's such a critical organ. And I'm just begging you today, yes, I'm using that word, begging you today to step into the heart as you leave here and you think about your impact, your ability to influence the culture of your organization. Grab hold to the heart. Grab hold to the head. Balance it all out so that you're in alignment. Somebody once told me that when you get up and talk, to make sure you are brief. What else? What else? Be brief. Be bright. Be brief. Be quick. Be seated. I don't think it's quick, but I know it's like hurry up, get up there, say what you're going to say, then sit down. My closing thoughts to you today is diversity and inclusion is at the heart of the matter. I think we need to pull inclusion back into the core of the operation. I think we need to focus on particularly what we can do individually. I think we have to get out of the head, stop pontificating. I think we need to really connect to the humanity of what we're trying to do. We own our culture. We own the environment that we call home, that you spend 20, 15 plus years in some cases. I don't know, but you're there. We own the mixture that happens in that organization. Not one person, not a group of leaders, all of us collectively and individually. So that's my charge to you today. You've been great. Thank you very much.